Support comes from the Rialto Center for the Arts at Georgia State University, announcing its 30th season in downtown Atlanta. The 26-27 Rialto series features artists Bela Fleck, Arturo Sandoval, Arrested Development, and more, alongside new quarterly art exhibits and a new membership program. Single performance tickets go on sale July 14th, and performances begin in the fall. Visit rialto.gsu.edu to explore the new season, become a Rialto member, and sign up for updates.
Welcome to the ATL Arts Collective, powered by ArtsATL. I'm Kim Drobes, and this is your home for stories from Atlanta's art scene, with reporting from ArtsATL writers, conversations with artists, and voices from across the creative community. Normally, I'm joined by a co-host, and next week you're in for a treat as Rough Draft Atlanta's Beth McKibben will be here. For today, it's just you and me, and I am so happy you're here. Let's take a look at what's coming up. In just a moment, Jasmine Hentschel from Gulch magazine will join us for this month's edition of Making It Work, our series which investigates how local creatives avoid being starving artists. These are personal stories from Atlanta artists about how they make a life for themselves through art. Then later, contributor Asia Arnold shares the story of Scatterbrain, a local supergroup fronted by Atlanta rapper Grip and featuring members of the platinum-selling indie rock band Group Love and local legends Mallbangs. And of course, we'll close out today's show with ArtsATL executive editor Shane Harrison's picks for this week's Best Bets. But first, did you know that Atlanta is home to a massive graffiti installation that spans 655 feet long and 100 feet wide? Even more surprising, if you've ever driven down Freedom Parkway, you were likely within a few feet of this incredible masterpiece without even realizing it. Sometimes the city's best street art is tucked away in secretive locations, completely hidden from the main roads. To find these hidden gems, you need an insider guide. Enter Art Rudick, the creator of the Atlanta Street Art Map and a regular contributor to ArtsATL. He's spent years tracking down the city's best-kept artistic secrets, and today he joins us to share exactly where to find Atlanta's most elusive murals. Hi, Arthur. How are you today?
I'm doing good.
I love the way you opened your recent piece. It was with a story about a 1983 text adventure game where you had to type Geronimo to survive a fall. How does that insider knowledge translate to the way people should look at Atlanta's streets?
Well, for those of you under 30 who don't remember text-based computer games, back in the early and mid-'80s, back when dinosaurs roamed the earth, there were no graphics in computer games. Everything was represented in text. The scene was described in text that you read, and then you typed in all your commands in pure text. And there was this one situation where the only way to advance to the next level of the game was to jump off a cliff. And I typed in the command, jump, and I died. And the next day I had a conversation with one of my coworkers who was very familiar with the game, and he told me that the way to survive that fall was to type in the word Geronimo instead of jump. And I was kind of dumbfounded and taken aback by that. And I said, how did you know to do that? Did I miss a clue somewhere in the game? And he said, no, there's no clue anywhere in the game. Someone who knows about it just needs to tell you about it. And sometimes street art is kind of like that. Most street art is plainly visible as you're walking down the sidewalk, but occasionally there's a hidden gem of street art that's located in a secluded, obscure, off-street location where you would never even think to look. And just walking down the street, you would completely miss it. The only way that you would know to look for it is if somebody who knows about it tells you about it.
And that is why you are here. So you've identified murals that are tucked behind school gardens, down narrow alleys, even on rooftops. Why do you think artists choose these secret locations instead of high traffic street corners?
A lot of times, the location of a mural is a purely practical reason. High visibility, high traffic mural spaces on walls are in pretty limited supply. So sometimes it's just a question of purely practicality. This is what was available. Other times, it's a situation of the mural is not necessarily intended for the general public. It might be intended for just the patrons of a business. For example, if they want to beautify a back parking lot for their customers, that mural would be visible just to the patrons of the business, and nobody else who didn't patronize the business would even know about it.
That makes sense. So one of the pieces you wrote about is a massive graffiti piece by the artist VAYNE. It is 655 feet long, yet almost no one, or maybe absolutely no one on Freedom Parkway ever sees it. How do you think he pulled off the piece Graffiti for the Gods on that scale without the public noticing?
My understanding of what he did was to put on a reflective vest and a hard hat like he was a maintenance worker, and that's what his helpers did. And people driving by, if they see people in hard hats and reflective vests doing what appears to be maintenance work, who's going to question that?
There's actually a piece in Gulch magazine with VAYNE where he talks about the creation of this piece. It's definitely worth a read because one of the facts that he puts out there is how much it cost him and how much paint had to be used. It's pretty impressive. So there's a similar situation at Peachtree Center with the artists 1010 and Opera. You mentioned that depending on whether you're a pedestrian or an office worker, you're seeing a completely different hidden world. Can you explain that visual tug of war?
Yes. When Peachtree Center did a major renovation in 1919, they commissioned Living Walls to install 2 murals. And these 2 murals are huge, and they're located right next to each other. But one of the murals, titled Symphony by Opera, is on a vertical surface facing Peachtree Center Avenue. And the other mural, titled Paradigm Shift by the Polish-German artist 1010, is on that horizontal surface, visible only from the office towers. It's an interesting irony that the only way to see both murals at the same time is with an exactly positioned drone.
All right, that brings me to the fact that you are an engineer by trade and you have a very methodical way of finding these pieces. You use drones, as you said, and satellite maps. Can you say where the strangest places that you've ever discovered a mural?
One of the oddest places for a mural that I've run across is at an apartment complex called the Penniman. The apartment complex was located on a site that had an industrial past. And in order to clear the site for construction, they completely removed all of the industrial components except for one odd little round building that looks like an abandoned water tank that is right in the middle of the apartment complex. And there is actually a door that goes into this odd little round building. And if you step inside, you will see a beautiful mural that is a collaboration between Fabian Williams and Tiny Doors Atlanta, painted around the entire perimeter of the interior of this little odd round building. And as I mentioned, if you're just walking by, it looks like an abandoned water tank of some type. But if you know to go inside, you'll be treated to a beautiful piece of artwork. Another very odd place for a mural is inside of a dumpster enclosure. And that sort of happened through a strange set of circumstances. There was a graffiti artist named H-Dog. Well, that's his graffiti handle. He painted a Maneki Nico cat on one of the walls of the apartment complex. And for anybody who's ever been to a Japanese restaurant, you've probably seen a Maneki Nico cat. It's that little cat statue with the arm that's waving. Yeah, it's considered a good luck symbol. And in Japanese culture, it's not like waving hello. It's actually making a beckoning motion for you to come towards it. There's a whole story that I could go into that where that came from, but it's considered a good luck symbol. And in the other hand of the cat, it generally holds a coin. In this particular case, the coin is the graffiti artist's handle written in an Asian-looking font. So again, you would, if you were to just look at it, you'd think it was Asian lettering. But if you know who painted it, and if you know what their handle is, you would understand, that's creep. But here's the funny thing that happened. After the mural was painted, and the mural was painted right next to a dumpster, the apartment complex built a dumpster enclosure around the dumpster and around the mural. So if you're walking down the street, you'll only see the dumpster enclosure. But if you know the mural was there, if you peer between the door and the door jamb of the dumpster enclosure, and there's a little gap, you can see the mural. But again,
oh my goodness.
Yes, but you would have to know it's there. Nobody would think to look through the door, the gap of a door of a dumpster enclosure to see a beautiful piece of artwork.
Oh, this is fantastic. So you can see Arthur's entire story at artsatl.org. There are a lot of other hidden gems mentioned, and it is so worth the read. Arthur, thank you so much for taking the time to talk with me today.
Oh, you're welcome, Kim. It's been great to be here, and I've enjoyed it.
It's time for Making It Work, our monthly series from our friends at Gulch magazine, Jasmine Hentschel and E.C. Flaming. If you're unfamiliar with Gulch, do yourself a favor and check it out. It's a gorgeous visual art magazine focused exclusively on the Atlanta visual art scene. Each month, they investigate how a specific local creative avoids being a starving artist. These are personal stories from Atlanta artists about how they make a life for themselves through art. Today, Jasmine talks to artist and art handler Michael Jones to get some conceptual advice for young artists.
I'm Jasmine Hentschel with Gulch magazine, and I'm here with Michael Jones in his studio. He's an amazing artist, art handler. He does many things in the arts ecosystem, and he's been here in Atlanta for a long time. So maybe to start, you can give us a little bit of an introduction about yourself and the different roles you play here in the Atlanta arts ecosystem.
Well, I moved here from a land far, far away in Texas. And so started going to school here, Atlanta College of Art. And basically, I think that enabled me to let people know at least how old I could be. So, yeah. And then I just decided to stay here in Atlanta because I wanted to be a part of the growth in this city in the art scenes.
And you do a lot of art. You also do art shipping, art handling, art installing. Is that correct? Like, what other kind of things are you involved with here?
Well, in my professional career, I've learned that you must diversify yourself in this art game. I wanted to try to make sure that I can eat steak when I want to. So I felt like I need to figure out another way to stay in this art world, but make a living as well. So I started doing picture framing and went from there to handling artwork, because obviously when you're picture framing, I'm not talking about building houses.
Right.
Some people like, oh, you a framer? You build houses?
Not that kind.
Yeah. Archive documents.
Right.
Because technically that's what picture framing really is protection of art and documents. So handling that type of stuff. Then I used to hang art shows for people too.
So I'm curious, with all these different things you've pieced together over time, how much of your time is spent on actually making art in a typical week? How much of your time is dedicated to art making versus these other things that you're working on?
Well, a true artist is always making art, period. Like, even if they at the job working at another place, you taking in data. You should always be, if I'm giving anybody any type of advice, always be taking in data. The job as an artist is 24/7.
Something I hear a lot of people talk about is there's a bit of uncertainty about how to make their lives work in a practical sense. What would you say is the key to finding the right balance when it comes to practical stuff and the financial side of things?
Well, it's hard. It's very hard to create anything solely for finances and stuff like that. So as a youngster, it's just kind of like you got to pick and choose what game you want to be in. And that's my advice for all of these people coming up. Like, it's not easy. It's mentally challenging. It's hard. Like, honestly, you definitely have to be very determined to stick with it, because it's like right when you want to give up, right when you getting off the horse, that's when you learn how to ride it. Yeah.
Are there any mindsets or habits that have helped you stay afloat when you've had moments in the past where you felt like, I don't know if I should do this?
I just try to listen. I try to hone myself in, and if I'm alive in the future, I ask that, Michael, help me through this. Like, give me some answers. Where should I go? And every time, Michael's been right and put me in the right position to be where I'm at right now. So that's what advice I need to tell people. Like, it's not so much believe in yourself, listen to yourself. Like, we have been taught to stop listening to ourselves. My gut kept me alive throughout this whole scenario.
So in terms of, being your authentic self, you've landed on this career you've made, putting together, making art and selling art, and also doing these other art adjacent things, handling and all of that. How does that play into your conception of yourself, the other side of things, when you're not making art, but you're handling and sawing, making frames, what have you? How does that fit into the picture for you?
I kind of got a goal in life, and that's not to be a burden on my family or a burden on other people. I felt like, unfortunately, sometimes, because I'm not just walking this earth by myself alone, which would probably suck. Like, I'm also responsible for other people too, through my actions and how I represent myself. It's not so much how I can make myself better, but how can I be a better person in my environment? How can I be a better person to my neighbor? How can I be a better husband? How can I be a better friend? How can I be a better son, a father?
I'm curious about, the studio we're in. Like, can you tell us a little bit more about this and how you, sustain this really beautiful space that you're here working out of?
So how do I make it happen? I don't know. Like, how did I make this happen? It was a lot of me believing in myself and not knowing what I was doing. That's almost kind of like the way that you got to go through life. Like, that's how you find out stuff. I'm pretty sure the first dude that went fishing didn't catch no fish for a while until he figured out how to, use some bait. I have just achieved a way to speak to my future self. Just like my fears can influence me, my future self can also influence me too. That future self was like, Mike, you need to get out that studio space that you in, and you need to try to start looking for something for you and your wife, for yourself, because you want to grow, right? Do you want to grow? Then you need to be uncomfortable in order for you to grow. And just the knowledge that I gotta tell somebody, find yourself a higher spirit and bow down to that. And then you'll be able to create.
Any advice on how to get in touch with your future self for those who maybe haven't had much practice doing that before?
Yeah, set goals. It's like, think outside of yourself right now. Be a servant to things and people that you don't like. Test yourself, because all of that stuff is going to come into play in the future. And then listen to you and say, well, what will keep me alive? What do I want to do? Who do I want to be? What type of person do I want to be? Those things will help you, because your present right now can make an influence on your future.
Is there anything else you would like to share before we wrap up?
I would like to invite people to invest in artwork and artists. If you know somebody that's artist, be honest with them and tell them the honest to God truth of how you feel about their artwork.
Why are you laughing?
Because it's a lot of people that be getting gassed up. And I understand why. It's hard for me to say how I feel about my own work. But I do know that sometimes everything that I make ain't gold, you know. But the things that I don't like of mine, other people love. So that's also kind of like if I'm dropping a gem, like, you know, just be happy with the shit you make and try to work from you. Like, you can look at other artwork and look at their techniques, but be original. Like, let's go back to that. Have a voice, like, tell your story.
Is there anything that you have coming up that you want to let people know about or invite them to?
The Property of Michael Jones on Instagram. And also Letter 75 if you want to follow what the hell I'm doing, you know, kind of like day to day and stuff like that. Also, if you want to purchase any artwork, DM me on there. And then I don't have any shows or anything like that coming up at the moment, because I've been here at the lab in the kitchen here cooking up stuff and trying to, you know, come up with new recipes and perfect the old ones, you know, because sometimes, you know, your barbecue, you know, you need to make sure that it's good. I mean, that it's not easy to make brisket. That's all I gotta say.
That was Jasmine Hentschel speaking with artist and art handler Michael Jones. Thanks to Jasmine for working on that story, and you can learn more about her as well as her creative partner, E.C. Flaming, at gulchmagazine.com. In just a moment, we'll hear the story of the local supergroup Scatterbrain. Plus, we'll close out today with ArtsATL executive editor Shane Harrison and his top picks for the weekend. Back in a minute.
Support comes from the Atlanta Opera, presenting Richard Wagner's Twilight of the Gods, the sweeping and unforgettable conclusion to the legendary Ring Cycle, sung in German with English supertitles. This Tomers Walloon production stars Stefan Winke and Lisa Lindstrom, reprising their roles from last season's production of Siegfried, on stage May 30th through June 7th at Cobb Energy Performing Arts Center. More information and tickets are at atlantaopera.org.
Welcome back to the ATL Arts Collective. I'm Kim Droves. If you're not already a fan of the local supergroup Scatterbrain, I think you will be after hearing this story. ATL Arts Collective contributor and Mainline Magazine founder Asia Arnold has more.
I guess it's miles away, but not today. I guess it's miles away, but not today. I guess it's miles away. My granny used to say, boy, you reap what you sow. And I guess if that's the case, the devil he...
That's Scatterbrain, the new Atlanta-based rap meets alt-rock project. Their first single, Bombs Away, was released last October, and their first show was in November as part of the annual stuffing put on by the Manchester Orchestra. While Scatterbrain is a new project, the players involved are not. Among them is longtime rapper and East Atlanta native Grip, who debuted his critically acclaimed album Porch in 2017.
I was just with him yesterday. Got them pouring out the 40 ounce. I just be one of many more announced. Hashtag before my name when they showing support. Should've kept my black ass on the porch.
Grip later signed on to Eminem's label Shady Records in 2021. The label, an imprint of Interscope Records, distributed Grip's album I Died for This that same year. Others might know fellow Scatterbrain member Daniel Gleason from the alt-rock band Grouplove. If you're not sure if you know Grouplove, you probably do. They had that huge indie sleaze era anthemic hit Tongue-Tied, which was released in 2011. Or maybe you're familiar with Mulbangs, the indie bedroom pop singer-songwriter project fronted by guitarist and songwriter A.D. Morgan. Aside from being an Atlanta DIY staple for several years, Mulbangs' music has struck a chord with listeners around the world, amassing into a wide-ranging global audience that resonates with Morgan's signature style that's haunting yet beautiful, with catchy pop melodies and climatic song structures. All of these people and more make up Scatterbrain.
Melancholy melodies on the radio. Uh-oh, down and away we go. Might not come back outside no more. Might not come back outside.
The band's debut album, Scatterbrain and the Unwavering Self-Doubt, will be released on June 19th via Big Society, a collaborative release between Grip's label Stray Society and Big Trouble Recording, where the album was created. The album itself strikes hard with overt blends of rap, southern hip-hop, alt-rock, and punk. It gives T.I. and Outkast meets Gorillaz meets Third Eye Blind. It's like going to a stacked cross-genre bill, except jam-packed into one project hitting multiple targets usually at once. While there's been tons of genre bending and collaborative projects throughout musical history, Scatterbrain is pushing the envelope on how far that genre bending and mixing can go. And according to Grip, it aligns with his job as the artist by pushing listeners past their boundaries and pre-existing barriers.
That's my job as a musician to challenge the listener either way it goes. Can't do the same thing over and over again. Like, you got to push it.
Although the destination might sound and feel familiar, with players who have carved lanes in their own respects, how we got to that place with Scatterbrain is what's most compelling. While Grip has his roots in Atlanta rap, coming up along with others in the Edgewood scene, 1/3 of Scatterbrain's makeup is the band Mulbangs, which stems from the local DIY scene. By working on this project and letting Scatterbrain be everything it wants to be, more than a one-off project, Grip has found new collaborators and deeper connections in the Atlanta music community. This is especially true of Grouplove. While Daniel is a core band member in Scatterbrain, Grouplove vocalist and keyboardist Hannah Hooper and vocalist and guitarist Christian Zucconi also join the mix. Christian is featured on multiple tracks, playing additional guitars and background vocals, and Scatterbrain's upcoming single Dug a Hole features Grouplove in a bigger way with an especially powerful vocal cameo from Hannah. The single will be released on all streaming platforms on April 24th. Daniel explained that this song for him is a bit of a surprise. He wasn't even sure if it would end up on the album.
It's just a different emotional space. It ends up being kind of like the whole album arc kind of leads you to this moment of that song. So it's perfect for the album. But, I don't know that we knew what it was going to be.
Grip elaborated, saying the song fits in a bigger story on the album and sits right atop a through line of self-sabotage and self-aggrandizing melancholy and how that can turn a relationship ill beyond repair.
The album touches on these themes. I think by the time you get to Dug a Hole, which is toward the end of the project, it's this person realizing like the path of destruction that they led with the self-sabotage and with just like the whole emotional roller coaster that you done been on. You've taken people with you. It's kind of like, damn, I might have to take this on the chin. Like, I realized like that I've ruined relationships, and sometimes it's just like, hey, I gotta lay in this bed I made.
It's a life of a guy who is lonely. I get in my own way, don't I? This whole thing won't I love?
Since the outbreak of the COVID pandemic in 2020, the Atlanta music scene has grown past its own limitations because it's had to. Artists aren't pigeonholed the way they used to be. Working class artists have more creative community and support. Queer folks and people of color are center stage in the limelight more than ever before. And it's extremely common to find yourself at a local show catching a rap artist, an indie band, a hardcore band, and an electronic act all in the same night. It was a show like this in late 2023 that brought Mulbangs and Grip together. There, Grip and 80 met and exchanged numbers. Eventually, Grip followed up with hopes of working together. The two combined forces with the added arsenal of the entire Mulbangs crew in Gleason's studio, Big Trouble Recording and Little 5 Points, writing over 50 songs. The band spent about 70 days in the studio during a 13-month period. Daniel compared their time in the studio to that of crazy momentum you might see during a basketball game, where a team hits their goals one after another, after another, after another.
And all of a sudden, you're just all thinking on the same page. And if for whatever reason, it's like, it's like playing basketball and all of a sudden you get on a heater and you've made 10 in a row and you're like, something special's happening, but I don't know where it's coming from, but like, it's feeling good. So let's just keep it going.
80 from Mulbangs described the formation of the group and the songwriting as very serendipitous and said that in the studio, the band never felt like they were writing bad songs, falling into something new every time they walked into a session. Grip said that was the most magical thing about working on this project. To him, Scatterbrain was an idea before he met any of his current bandmates. The original concept was, in some ways, fake.
The original concept was a fake band, like in the vein of like Sgt. Pepper's. So even in the concept of the album, the band still doesn't exist. It's literally just Grip telling you the story, but it's just like, it's all in my head. So it's just my psyche and just like a deconstruction of that.
Grip said he needed a new experience in order to process his own experiences with self-sabotage and mental health challenges, things he's been dealing with intensely for the past couple of years.
I want to take it there. In the hip hop, it wasn't scratching that itch for me creatively, just traditional sounds and just a producer giving you a beat and you sitting here and you writing to this beat, and I was getting tired of it. I want to push it as far as I can. And I just didn't think that hip hop, traditional in a traditional sense, was going to be the answer.
Through Scatterbrain, new doors to Atlanta's burgeoning music scene opened up for Grip, with one piece of the puzzle leading to another, creating a bigger image and a bigger world for Scatterbrain to exist in.
Atlanta as a whole, man, it's so rooted for me and how I grew up, just like hip hop, and then watching it evolve and becoming a part of it and being in that underground scene, Edgewood, and seeing my peers reach levels of stardom. You realizing like, damn, man, like Atlanta's like, it's birthed a lot of creative people who are able to make it to like larger platforms. I love it for that. I do feel like kind of it's very competitive and it's a lot of gatekeeping that goes on. So I think that people think that it's like more community than it is, which is why someone like me would be essentially searching for a community.
Through the power of community and creative chemistry, Scatterbrain has found their momentum. None of the individual's credentials would matter if the magic wasn't there. Scatterbrain is taking risks in areas where other artists are afraid to take leaps. With it comes the reminder of sustaining our humanity and betting on ourselves and each other in spite of our own self-drama. Scatterbrain and the Unwavering Self-Doubt will be released on June 19th. For the ATL Arts Collective, I'm Asia Arnold.
Scatterbrain plays the 40 Watt in Athens on June 26th as part of this year's AthFest. You can follow them on Instagram at Scatterbrain, but please note they spell that without an E. And now it's time for ArtsATL's Best Bets with executive editor Shane Harrison. This week, his mix includes the Atlanta Fringe Festival, a chance to get weird with your favorite owl, and a new group show at the Goat Farm.
The Atlanta Fringe Festival gets underway today. The 14th annual event aims to connect adventurous artists with appreciative audiences over the next 2 weeks at various venues, including 7 stages and the supermarket. It's the place to experience work that's unexpected, boundary-pushing, and occasionally downright weird. The Fringe Fest continues through June 7th. But that's not the only way to get weird this week. The undisputed master of musical parody, Weird Al Yankovic, brings his Bigger and Weirder tour to Ameris Bank Amphitheater on Sunday, May 31st. He's had a remarkably long career, starting in 1979 with the My Sharona parody, My Bologna. Along the way, he's won 4 Grammys and sold more than 12 million albums. If you're looking for something spectacular, don't miss the concluding segment of the Atlanta Opera's ambitious mounting of Richard Wagner's Der Ring des Nibelungen. The epic struggle between good and evil reaches its climactic conclusion with Twilight of the Gods, as the battle for the Ring of Power brings about the destruction of the gods' world. Performances are on May 30th, June 2nd, June 5th, and June 7th at the Cobb Energy Performing Arts Center. The world premiere musical Basura at Alliance Theater, May 30th to July 2nd, comes from multiple Grammy Award winner Gloria Estefan, who is joining forces with her singer-songwriter daughter Emily to write the music and lyrics. It's the true story of Paraguay's recycled orchestra, which turned unorthodox objects, empty paint cans, a fork, a bent license plate, into instruments to create music. Be sure to join us next week for more on Basura as ArtsATL editor-at-large Jim Farmer talks to Gloria and Emily Estefan. Out in Lawrenceville, Aurora Theater closes its season with Lin-Manuel Miranda's In the Heights. Set in the vibrant neighborhood of Washington Heights, the Tony Award-winning musical offers a dynamic blend of hip-hop, salsa, merengue, and soul, and is bursting with passion and heart. See it from May 28th through June 21st. A little escapism is always welcome, and Marietta Theater Company has just the ticket. In 9 to 5 the musical, 3 friends take control of their office in this show based on the 1980 hit movie, with music and lyrics by one of the movie's beloved stars, Dolly Parton. See it at Theater in the Square from May 28th through June 6th. The Swan Coach House's annual summer showcase, the Summer Invitational, opens Thursday, May 28th. This celebration of fine art and craft brings together more than 65 talented artists from Georgia and the Southeast. From pottery to sculpture, textiles to jewelry, and everything in between, the Summer Invitational offers an array of artistic expression from the selected artists. This Is Now, opening May 29th at the Goat Farm, is a group show of art and resistance, situating Atlanta's story within a broader global context through community-focused art. The exhibition features 33 politically engaged, emerging, and established artists, including projects developed in collaboration with Mapping Atlanta, Atlanta Community Press Collective, and the South River Watershed Alliance. During the exhibition, attendees will have opportunities to participate in letter writing initiatives and join banner-making workshops developed in partnership with El Refugio and other local advocacy organizations. Celebrate Road Trip, the newest novel by local Avondale Estates author Mary Kay Andrews, the New York Times best-selling author of 30 novels. She'll talk about her writing process and her newest book at the Chapel on Sycamore in Decatur on May 31st at an event sponsored by the Bookbird. Get an early start on Pride Month with a screening of the beloved Australian classic The Adventures of Priscilla, Queen of the Desert at the landmark Midtown Arts Cinema on May 30th and June 2nd. The Georgia Chamber Players season concludes on May 31st at the Ahavath Ahim Synagogue. The concert will showcase the synagogue's 2 grand pianos as Elizabeth Pridgen and Julie Coucheron perform Rachmaninoff's magnificent Suite No. 2 for 2 pianos. For the ATL Arts Collective and ArtsATL, I'm Shane Harrison.
Shane actually curates an even longer list each week, and you can find all of his picks at artsatl.org. Well, that's it for today. Thank you for listening to the ATL Arts Collective. You can join us on social at ArtsAtlanta as well as at ATL Arts Collective. Let's lift the artists shaping Atlanta together. Show up, spread the word, and be part of the community. You'll find pictures and links related to today's show at atlartscollective.com. And while you're there, consider buying the podcast a cup of coffee via our Patreon page. Your donation helps cover production costs, research, reporting, and of course, coffee. Stay with us. I'll be right back with a look at what's coming up next week.
Support comes from the Sun ATL, combining the elegance of a fine art gallery with the depth of a museum and the versatility of a premier meeting and event space. Located 1 block from the King Center in the Sweet Auburn district, the Sun ATL showcases photography alongside modern, contemporary, and outsider art by local and international artists. Open 11 to 5 on Fridays and Saturdays and by appointment. Explore exhibitions, plan your visit, or inquire about events at thesunatl.com.
Welcome back. While you're listening right now, please subscribe, rate, and review. It really does help other people find the show. Our theme music is K. Michelle Dubois' Hit the Deck from her album Astral Heart, courtesy of Wicked Superb Records. Next week on the show, Rough Draft Atlanta's editor-in-chief and senior dining editor, Beth McKibben, joins us as co-host, and she brings us a story about the art of plating food. Plus, Gloria Estefan and her daughter Emily tell us about Basura, opening on May 30th at the Alliance Theater. And we'll kick off Pride Month with a look at Wig Out, a Wigstock-style event coming to East Atlanta on June 6th. The ATL Arts Collective is part of the Wordplay Collective podcast family. Check out our sister show, In Pieces with Our Land, for conversations with artist Our Land. Thanks again for listening. I'm Kim Drobes, and this is the ATL Arts Collective.